the San Antonio Spurs are amongst the favorite to trade for former All-Star Brandon Ingram. And personally, I just want to say, I think this would be terrible. I'm going to break down right now Keenan Warner, Spurs Digest. If you guys haven't, take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment moving forward. I appreciate all of you guys here who come in and tune in. But I'm about to break down why I think this trade, and there's nothing about it that I would like, would be terrible for the San Antonio Spurs. Don't like it one bit. All right, so here's the thing. Spurs, the favorites to acquire Brandon Ingram potential trade. Obviously, if you go down, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So we're top 11, 12. I understand that when it says favorites, we're not one of the biggest odds, but we're still on the list. If we're on the list, that means it's something that is in the cards that could be done. It could be possible. Obviously, plus 2,500 and plus 400 are two massively different situations. But I don't know why the Lakers would do that anyway, but that's a completely different conversation for another day. This is Spurs Digest, and we're about to break it down here on Spurs Digest. The Spurs are 11-11 after their recent loss to the Chicago Bulls. They are going to be playing the Sacramento Kings tonight, so we'll see if they can get back over 500 or if they're going to stay below. The Kings are actually below 500, so this is a game that they're going to need too. But the Spurs are in the thick of it between here and the Golden State Warriors, who we beat. We are in the thick of it. I mean, that's a 2.5 game difference between those spots right there. All the top teams, we have played with them. Oklahoma City Thunder, of course, first game was without Wemby. We had a tough time with OKC. The Rockets, we've had close games with them. We've actually ended up winning one of those games. We've seen the Lakers in close games. We've seen all of these teams so far in close games that we have played against. They're not showing, and none of these teams are showing to be head and shoulders better than the San Antonio Spurs, other than the Oklahoma City Thunder currently, and that's the team that's head and shoulders pretty much against everyone else in the Western Conference, if you ask my opinion, and they're not even fully healthy. But back to it. Pelicans are 5-18. DeJounte Murray goes down early this season. You have people like Herb Jones missing time. A lot of people have missed time for the New Orleans Pelicans in the season that they thought they were going to be able to continue from what you saw last year. Zion putting 40 in the play-in game prior to him getting injured. You've got, okay, we're going to get DeJounte Murray with CJ McCollum. We got Herb Jones, Trey Murphy. I know we lost Valanciunas, but that's why we still have someone like Zion Williamson. We got stars. We got pieces. We should be able to push this team forward and at least try to get to a play-in, if not a playoff spot. That's the mentality coming in. It has been everything but that for this organization so far. But with that, you have players that are going to be looked to move, especially someone like Brandon Ingram, who's on the last year of his contract and his deal, and people are talking about moving him. If you can't see this, this is just showing what his contract would be. It is 24-25, and next year he is an unrestricted free agent. Beep 1. Why would we trade for him when he's an unrestricted free agent next year and it looks like he's not going back to New Orleans? The thought would be, okay, if you get him now, then you're saving from another team getting him later and you can pay him. I understand he is 27 years old. He's September 2nd, 1997. He's actually a few months younger than I am. But that doesn't mean you have to get him. I know he fits your timeline, but that means you have to mortgage a lot of what you have now to go get a guy who doesn't fit in with the exact scheme of what the San Antonio Spurs does. Is he good? Of course he's good. 23, 6, and 5. 4 turnovers a game, which I don't love, but 47% from the floor, 37 from 3. I very much liked him when he played at Duke. He's one of the players that I actually love watching. He is an enjoyable piece to the puzzle of teams, but he just doesn't fit this roster. Reason being, like, obviously when things break down, he can go get a bucket, but we've seen this year, Victor Wembanyama has gotten better with that. Devin Vassell is there. Jeremy Sochan has taken a next step. Stephon Castle can get downhill, and you're going to have to take away the thing that we have going for us is depth. We have depth, we have picks, we have young stars. We don't need to make moves like this unless it's going for something massive. It's going big game hunting. If we're talking in the point of bucks, like we're talking, oh, okay, this is a 2 to 3 point buck. It's a nice buck. It's a nice shot. It's cool. Like, okay, that trophy on the wall's not going to look bad, But if we're going to do this, let's go big game hunting. Let's go get a 7 or 8 pointer. We have the picks. We have the organization, you have the draw, which is Wemby, and then you have the pieces and the capital to do so. That is going after, not saying this is going to happen, but that's going after someone like a Giannis, where you're like, okay, we can give up Keldon Johnson, we can give up Zach Collins for financial purposes, we can give up Branham, Blake Wesley, one of these younger guards there to try to make that work. And then we can give you a bunch of picks moving forward, a lot of which are going to be unprotected first picks depending on where they come from. And yes, we'll take Giannis and pair him up with Wemby. Do I think that's the perfect situation? I don't. But I use his name because he's obviously been talked in a little bit of trade stuff. And it's someone that's big game hunting who is in the time frame of what the Spurs want to do. Brandon Ingram, you have to give up too many pieces. I mean, I did this trade earlier. There's nothing out like that has like a mock trade or anything, so I had to do one myself. And this mock trade is what it would be. This doesn't talk about the picks you would have to give up, but it'd be looking like a Harrison Barnes, Zach Collins, Malachi Branham for Brandon Ingram. You would add in, I think that depends on what the Spurs would want. They'll probably want to keep this Hawks pick from this year, but they might try to ask for like a Spurs 2031 unprotected first round pick. So obviously down the line, maybe they have a down year or whatnot with Brandon Ingram. You would ask for some picks in the future, and the Spurs have a litany of picks. You could ask for some of those future first round picks. I know they have a Hornets pick. They have obviously the Hawks pick. They have other picks there as well. So the trade would look somewhat similar to this. I understand people want Zach Collins gone. They need an axe for him so you can get Charles Bassey in there, and I'm fine with that. But you could get rid of Zach Collins for a second round pick, and you'd be more inclined to do that than having to do it for that trade. I think getting Brandon Ingram into the San Antonio Spurs organization, as he is a good player, and he wouldn't hurt the Spurs. I just think there's so much more you could do with those assets. You don't need that to happen at all. It's just something along the lines of like, why would you mess up a young nucleus and a young nucleus that doesn't actually fit with you? Like for a guy who doesn't really fit exactly with the young nucleus. You want to get a guy who's going to, with Brandon Ingram, I understand he's not a magnet. It's not like he's like prime Melo to where like he's just a ball stopper. He is not. But his game is 18, 21 and in. He can obviously shoot the three at a high level, so at 37%. He can shoot it. But like he is a high post guy. I'm going to face up. I'm going to make moves and get active and get after it. Could it work? Of course, because the Spurs have great coaching and you can make it work. Do I think that that's the best move for the San Antonio Spurs? I don't at all. I don't like this trade. I don't want this trade to happen. I understand they're one of the favorites, but they're not at the top of the list with Miami or the Lakers or the Warriors or whatnot. I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't want it at all. You guys might feel different than me, and that's fine. You guys can feel different than me. But if we're going to trade our assets, we're going to trade the pieces that have been playing well. We're going to trade the Western Conference Player of the Week a couple years back. We're going to do all of that stuff. Then I want to do it for a guy who truly moves the needle. Truly moves the needle. I understand Wemby, Ingram, Vassell, and Sochan, that was the one I was thinking. That's a great big four. And then you got Stephon Castle, Chris Paul for a year or two, and then you can kind of filter down from there. But Chris Paul, when you're really going on your championship runs, will no longer be there. And then now you just have to hope for guys to progress. Minutes don't get allocated the same way. You just got to hope for guys to progress, and you got to hope for things. I understand that that's going to be the case. But if you're going to do it, you're going to trade these assets for it because the Pelicans are going to want picks. Go do that. And last but not least, he's an unrestricted free agent this year. You have the money. If you really wanted him, just wait and sign him. Just wait and sign him. There's no need to, he's not 3 years left on his deal, but a disgruntled person. So you're like, oh, let me go get that now. He's an unrestricted free agent next year. Go get him then. And I'd be singing much better too because then you don't have to give up the assets. You get to just have him and don't have to give up the assets for it. That's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think. If I think I'm crazy, let me know I'm crazy. That's perfectly fine. If you guys think Brandon Ingram would really move the needle and push us into championship level conversation over the next few years, let me know. I might be wrong. But hey, I have my opinion here. I want to hear what your guys' is in the comments there. This has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys, and I will be seeing all of you guys very soon.